PQ. This is my shop. Welcome back. This is Chewy. He's my service dog. This is my 1973 Rally Challenger. 4-speed, 340. I have the quarter panels back on. It's a Resurrection Red we got in here. And everything's kind of, if you look, this is the mess that's in my shop. So there's not much room to move around, but that doesn't mean we can't be doing other stuff working towards the Challenger for now. So what I'm going to do is introduce you to something else. This is my wonderful, amazing 340 stroker engine that will be in the Challenger. This is stroked out to a 410. So what we have to do now is we have to get this ready to go to the engine dyno, because I want to have this dyno tested, have it, make sure it's not leaking anywhere, and there's a few things that you need to do whenever you take your engine to an engine dyno. The first thing is to contact the engine dyno and set something up. The other part is to find out exactly what they require be on the engine at the time of the dyno when you drop it off. So I have to put the water pump on. Sometimes they don't want it, that's why it's not on there yet, but sometimes they don't want it, so we're going to put the water pump on. I need to have, these are the pulleys. This is the crank pulley and the one that goes on the water pump. I'm going to go ahead and get these in the sandblaster, get these blasted off and get them repainted. Orange is not the proper color for this engine. These should be black, semi-gloss black to be exact. This is the Fuel Make It Happener, or as I call it, Ratarubrac, which is carburetor spelled backwards, that I purchased off of the marketplace. It's a little dusty right now. I've just had it covered up, but we're going to rebuild this. I got to flop this fuel rail around for the Mopar. I'm going to go through it, make sure we have the right settings that I want for this stroker engine, being at a 4-speed. But that was a purchase, so we got our rebuild kit, a few other doodads here, so we'll be addressing that as well. I have already cleaned up the bell housing here, and we'll put the one piece back, the bracket back inside here, goes over here, but I have that. Over here we have a pile of parts. Yeah, Chewy's checking it out. No stealing my parts this time, buddy, okay? Got it? I know how you are. I know how you are. So we have some items here. There's some fuel pumps, some ARP bolts. I got a mini starter, which I won't be sending because they don't need the starter. Got the water pump. Got the flywheel. I've also got, for the back, pilot bearing. That'll need to be in there. Probably should order a new one of these things. I don't know. Maybe it'll work. Who knows? I'll put that on there for now. I'm going to have to, I got a Petronix distributor. I'm going to put that in. That clock. They do not need plug wires on, so all we need to do is clock it on one, get the timing set, and we'll be good to go. Been sitting in my garage for about a year, and we already have mouse activity. That's fantastic. It's just fantastic. I don't know how they find a way in here, but they do. So we're going to go ahead and clean this off. These little bastards get everywhere, don't they? Fucking bastard, little mice. The other dilemma I have is that this has the 90-degree filter housing on it. And I would like to move that over to my 340 stand to take it over to the dyno place. I'm not quite sure where I put the wafers. I guess maybe I have to go visit Tractor Supply. What do you think, Joey? You think we can go out to Tractor Supply? Get some very special mouse wafers? Huh? For the Mises? You want to feed the Mises, Chewy? Some very special mouse wafers? Yummy, yummy. Yummy. I don't know how many of y'all have dealt with the rodents before. Unfortunately, if some of y'all have cats, can't have cats. My dogs don't like cats. It's a long story, but yeah, we can't have cats here. So, guess that's on the list of to-do. Tractor Supply for very special mouse treats. Got a very special bracket on here. I need to take that back off so I can clean that up. Don't want to look like that. Looks like some trash. I don't know what the engine builder replaced some bolts, but not all the rest. So I guess I'm going to have to do that. That seems funny. I paid good money for this too. So not all of the bolts have been replaced. Most of them have. Corner ones. All right. Go ahead and get some stuff going here. Here is the current condition of the 73 Rally Challenger. Let's move on and look over here. So once again, here's the 340 stroker. I will put the information up above or down below of the cam card. It has been stroked. 410. Some things I need to do on it before I could take it to the dyno, because I want to go ahead and get this dynoed, make sure it has no leaks, get a horsepower rating, make sure the engine runs okay before I go ahead and put it in what will be a newly painted vehicle. Now this engine was built about a year ago, maybe a little bit longer. If you remember when I took the top off the last time, there was a nice little rat's nest in there. So what I'm going to do first, before I do anything else, is I'm going to go ahead and take my little probing tool and make sure we don't have any extra visitors in here and over in here where I did not cover it in. So just want to make sure before I go ahead and start getting the rest of this stuff put together, because I got to put the water pump on, put the distributor in, put the fuel pump block off on there, dipstick, need to get all that stuff done and get that ready. But I want to go ahead and check it out and make sure we didn't get any critters, any extra visitors in here. This was already had a rag in it, but we want to go ahead and get this put together. Damn, this thing is ugly. That is the original. I don't know why I didn't replace that, but you know what? If we need it, I'll go ahead and order one. If we need it, we'll replace it. If not, I'll leave it alone for now. Okay, so let's get busy on checking to make sure that there's no critters living in there. Alright, so I went ahead and I put the distributor in. I got it top dead center. You know, I'll just say that I went over the engine. I used my little camera tool here. Let me show you what I got with the distributor. So I dropped the distributor in the top dead center, and if you see, it's not exactly pointing towards one. So we're going to need to clock the oil pump. So let me pull this out. And hopefully you can see. We look where that shaft is, and it's kind of pointing towards the front of the valve cover. Like I said, so it's close. And if I put this here, you can see that's pointing towards the front. So I mean, I guess it's not always the case that these are the same as that. Some distributors aren't. This one looks like it's going to be pretty close to being set, so I need to turn that, reclock that. So put a screwdriver in there, turn it clockwise. Alright, so that, feel much more comfortable there, it pointing towards cylinder 1. I had to clock that thing, so we'll go ahead and tighten this down. We'll get on to the next thing. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is the water pump. Now we'll go around the world. Oh. All right. Zero out your torque wrench when you're done with it. All right. Moroso fuel pump cover, because we're going to put an electronic fuel pump on this in the gas tank when we get to that point. So now I'm going to put this together like so. Summit, it's real basic, you know, ain't the best chrome in the world, but I'm just trying to replace what's on there in that 80s fashion, you know, so that's what we're going to go with. Let me see if I can locate my new thermostat. Well, it's the next day, and like everything else I seem to put my hands on, we go one step forward, two steps back, or two steps forward, one step back, something like that. Anyways, a little disheartening. I had this engine built by a local Mopar guy, and he's an older gentleman, and he built it to my specs, to what I wanted. I came out here, I was trying to tie everything up so I could take it to the dyno. That was the plan. And I began going through it. I had to get the distributor, and then I looked at the distributor, the oil pump gear and shaft, and it's not the proper one for a roller cam, because the roller cam's hardened, so it needs to be either brass or it needs to be that myelinidized for the gear, or it would just shred the engine. So in any case, I went in there and I pulled the distributor back out, and I don't know why I didn't notice this when I first put the distributor in, but when I pulled everything out and I looked down in there, and let me see if I get a light. I look back down in there. Can you see all those chips in there? Well, those are aluminum shavings. Now he did a retro roller top end on this, and so I went ahead and I busted out my trusty little probing tool here and took a look inside. And so at this point, I mean, I'm angry, but I'm also glad I caught it before it actually got ran. The only other problem is that he did say that he pumped up the oil pressure in the system, which means he spun the distributor shaft or the oil pump shaft to push the oil out. So what I'm hoping happened, and I won't know because now I've got to tear the intake off, which is okay because it gives me a chance to, I want to just talk about upgrading the intake to something that better matched the heads than this weaned one. Anyways, it's, you know, when you spend that kind of money to have somebody else do the work, you don't need it to come back. That's the status of where we're at right now, and let's get into it. You know, for all you guys who want to pay somebody else to do it versus doing all of it yourself or part of it yourself, just remember, man, you might end up spending money twice because you end up like I did. Oh, not happy about that. Seems to be mostly on this end. Let me have you take a look. Not quite sure where all these shavings came from. They're definitely aluminum. That's unfucking believable. Excuse my French. Unbelievable. That is no bueno. 10,000 bucks. That's what I spent for the parts and have this engine gone through. So I'm not a happy camper. Oh my gosh, Becky. Oh my God. PQ here. I've got in the back, if you can see it, I've got the 340 in the back, and I went over to see the engine builder yesterday, and he's not admitting anything, and I didn't expect him to. Pretty much the first thing out of his mouth was, "Oh, that didn't happen. No." I showed him the pictures. I didn't take the engine over yesterday, but he's like, "I want to see it." And what I think happened is, on these aluminum heads, he had the aluminum heads, they're Edelbrocks, in his shop, and he retrofitted the roller assembly on the top. Well, if you know anything about the Mopars and the rollers with the aluminum heads, the angle of the push rod can sometimes be a little off, so you've got to get it on. Well, if what's required is to wallow out those openings so that the rods can fit properly. So he's an old school guy. He's probably in his late 70s, early 80s. So I'm going to give him a little bit of a break. But my buddy, who's also an engine builder, told me that if he's that old school, he probably has a machine there, which I forget what the name of it was, but it's before the CNC machine. So I think he called it a BNC. And if that's the case, it's basically you're doing it by hand. And he just thinks that, some of the aluminum flakes got into the port somewhere, and when he put it onto the head, they ended up getting into the valley. What I'm hoping is that he's going to be able to vacuum out most of it, because the engine wasn't ran. The pump was turned to pump up oil pressure, but that doesn't rotate. And I only rotated it maybe one turn around to get it on top dead center. Maybe two. Okay, let's say two. So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to salvage this engine. And I double checked using a magnet inside to make sure that it was in fact aluminum and not steel, because had it been steel, like my buddy said, if it was steel, you have to tear the whole thing apart. He said because it's aluminum, hopefully they can just vacuum that out, pull the heads out, pull the heads off, make sure everything's cleaned out on the heads and stuff, and hopefully that'll do the trick. It's not good. Even if it's aluminum, it's not good, but steel would have been way worse. So that's where I'm headed now. I'm heading over to the engine builder, and I'm not going to call him out by name. It could be an honest mistake. It would be worse had I tried to run the engine. It could have been way worse, but I haven't ran the engine yet. So I guess that's, if I'm going to count my blessings, that's where I'm going to count them, because it can always be worse. But this has been the story with this vehicle since day one. I've either had to do things 2-3 times, like the transmission, and a couple of the sections of body work I've had to redo a couple times, and it just that's the way it goes. I will keep you informed of what goes on. I mean, my original plan was to do this engine part, taking it to the dyno, because I had an appointment for the dyno I had to cancel until we get this engine straightened out, because it's not necessarily what I want to know about the horsepower, which I do want to know about the horsepower, but for me, I'm doing so much work on the body. For me, it just made sense to have the engine tuned, dyno tuned with the carburetor and everything, and then I could wrap it up in plastic in my shop. Eventually I'll mount it onto the K-member along with the front suspension, and I will put it on just the same way Moparter did, from underneath. So yeah, I'm not real happy about it. It's kind of sick to my stomach all night last night. Didn't really want to eat anything, and I'm sure you all understand, if you know how much these parts cost, and to pay somebody else to do it. I kind of wish I was like Jamie and this stuff came easy for me. And if you haven't seen his channel, it's Dead Dodge Garage. He knows all about it. He's constantly putting engines together every week. I don't have that kind of experience. I can do an intake, water pump, timing chain, normal maintenance stuff, but I don't get into full engine rebuilds or builds. So I thought it would just be more cost efficient for me and time efficient to pay somebody to do it. And like I said, I'm not going to call this guy out. It could be an honest to God mistake. I'm sure he doesn't do a lot of this kind of work. He does a lot of older cars, engines, and some drag stuff. But I had very specific goals in mind. I wanted something I could go get ice cream in, run 93 octane, and take the drag strip every once in a while. So that's the plan behind it, and that's what I was looking for. Kind of your vintage 80s all-around muscle car. That's what I was looking for. So anyhow, here we go, and either that thing's going to be left behind, or I'm going to be taking it home and attempting to do it myself. But in any case, here we go. Alright, so he took the engine. I didn't want to call him out. I don't want to call him out. If you ever run into a situation where something goes wrong for a service that you paid for, give the person an opportunity to make it right. It's easy to get upset when you're spending thousands of dollars to have some work done and expecting perfection, and maybe deservingly so. But people are flawed. They make mistakes, and I make mistakes. I'm not perfect. I would like to give them the benefit of the doubt, give them a chance to make it right. I will let you know how things go. I don't know how long it's going to take him. He's very busy. He's probably got 5-6 engines in there when I stop by. And he always wants to talk. So I talked to him for a little while, but he didn't complain or anything. He just asked some questions about the engine. Basic stuff, what kind of plugs that I put in, and even though it hasn't ran, he knows what specific type of plug it needs to run. So he was checking those out, and so we'll see what happens. But yeah, give a person a chance to fix their mistakes. It's the right thing to do. So until next time, peace.